I'm always interested in these people who live through these cultural transitions. I mean, if you were born in 1900 in England, you were born at the height of one of the greatest civilizations, maybe the greatest civilization that has ever existed on Earth, not just the British Empire, but if you take Europe as a whole. You were born at a time of incredible hope, of incredible progress, of incredible scientific inventions. You would have just thought, like, this is it. We are here. We have arrived. The singularity has arrived. Within 14 years, Europe was wiped off the face of the map. It took till 1945. It took 30 years, 2 world wars, but that civilization was gone. The Europe that exists today is not that Europe. It is gone, just like the Rome that exists today is not Rome. You know, these changes come with incredible suddenness, and the peak is very close to the nadir. The peak is very close to the bottom. And I'm just always interested in these people who live through these things, because a lot of times, as I said at the beginning, they're the guys you have to look to for a smooth transition. So Winston Churchill was in one of the last actual cavalry charges, right? He was an Omdurman, I think it was called, and he was in a cavalry charge, but he's also the guy who had the wisdom to use tanks during World War I, and he was the guy at 60 in his 60s who guided Britain and in some sense the world through World War II, because he carried those Victorian values into the New World. And while other people were trying to figure out what changes were going on and how to hold on to a world that was passing away, he understood what he had to fight for. Because what old people know is they know the things that are eternal, because they've seen everything else pass away. So why does the fight in a transition always end up centering around women? Now, I read a book recently. It was written in 1934. I was reading through it. It's kind of hard to read word by word, but I was reading through it. It's by an English social anthropologist called Sex and Culture. Really interesting book. And it studies what happens to all kinds of cultures according to their sexual codes. And just to give you a quick summary of what he says that chastity outside of marriage and what he calls absolute monogamy, which means monogamy for both men and women, not just for women, causes cultures to flourish if it is kept in place for 3 generations. After 3 generations of that being the basic code of ethics, a culture will exceed others in every possible area. And if these restraints are taken away and sexual looseness comes about, then 3 generations later, the society will collapse. And he shows this happening again and again. And he points out in these cultures that cultures that have ultimate monogamy, absolute monogamy, and chastity, they tend to devalue the rights of women, and that becomes intolerable for women, and women want to break free, and that's when things start to unravel. 4 quotations. The first quotation is from a book by a guy named Stefan Zweig, which I recommend highly. It's called The World of Yesterday. Zweig was one of the most popular writers in Europe in the 20s and 30s, and now he's only remembered for this one book. It's a memoir of living through his times. And he was one of these guys I'm talking about. He was born in Vienna in 1881 at the height of the European century, and Austro-Hungarian Empire is at its height. And he talks in his book about how painful it was to have a sex life as a young person in this Victorian Austro-Hungarian world. There was prostitutes everywhere, and a woman could live her whole life without ever seeing her own body, without ever seeing her own naked body, because that's how restrained they were. And everybody was so restrained, and there was all this shame and all this stuff. And he looked at the young people after World War I who were sexually liberated, and he thought it was wonderful. And this is what he said to them. He said, we had more freedom in the political sense than the present generation. We were able to devote ourselves to our art, to our intellectual inclinations. We were able to mold our private existence with more individual personality. No one questioned us as to our beliefs, as to our origin, race, or religion. I do not deny that we had immeasurably more individual freedom, and we not only cherished it, but made use of it as well. We lived better and tasted more of the world, but the youth of today lives and experiences its own youth more consciously. When today I see boys and girls in free, untroubled companionship without false modesty and false shame, it seems as if not 40, but 1,000 years stand between them and us, who, in order to procure or to receive love, always had to seek shadows and hiding places. When I read that book, I thought, Stefan, no, you don't see what's happening. What he was looking at was the end of Europe. He didn't know it because it was fun. It was happy. People were happy. They were happier than they were in Victorian England. Here's another book, very similar quote, Vera Brittain, this is one of my favorite memoirs of all time, Testament of Youth by Vera Brittain, a woman I'm sure I would have just hated, very bolshy feminist and pacifist, but she was an extraordinarily brave nurse during World War I in war zones. An intelligent woman. She loved reading, and when she came of age, it was time for her to get married. She was sent off to a little town called Buxton, and she hated it because all she wanted to do was study to go to university, and that's not what women were supposed to do. So while she was trying to study, she found, quote, "I was bombarded with infuriating requests to help with jumble sales, wait at bazaar teas, play in amateur theatricals, and take the place of tiresome individuals who had fallen out of a game of bridge. Girls who now, as a matter of course, prepare themselves for college in the comparatively peaceful seclusion of school, have no idea how strenuously each uninterrupted hour had to be fought for in the restless, critical, busy atmosphere of a pre-war provincial town." And once again, when I read that, I thought, I'm sure every mom, every at-home mom knows exactly what she's talking about, the round of social things that people put together so that children may thrive, grow up, and get married and create more children. And you do that for 3 generations, your society blooms. But if you don't fit in that, this woman just hated this. She hated the limited role of women. And even she admitted she came from a place of prosperity that her generation would never see again. The war, the story of Testament of Youth, is heartbreaking because she watches everything she loves destroyed. The role of sex in culture, which is essentially the dispensation of women. Where are the women going to go? How are the women going to give their bodies? Remember, because for us, guys, sex is a little while. For them, it can be 9 months and then a lifetime of taking care of a child. But where the women go determines the freedom and greatness of the society, but also can hamper the happiness of individuals if the restrictions become too tight. This is almost a Marxist explanation in the sense that it's purely material, not moral. I'm not talking about morality at all. I'm talking about the effects on human beings. The great plans for the betterment of society that people make are really not to the point. These guys who have the new plan, the great resets and the new ideas of the great society, everything's going to be great, never works. Leo Tolstoy, greatest novelist ever, War and Peace, Anna Karenina, he had a religious conversion to it was Christianity, but it was an anarchic, non-miraculous, kind of pacifist version of the religion that I don't agree with. But he was a very wise, intelligent man, and he wrote some really beautiful things. And this was his advice to people toward the end of his life. Cease participating in the various organizations whose aim is supposedly to further the welfare of the masses, and seek only that one thing that is always necessary and within the reach of us all, and which gives the greatest well-being to ourselves and is the most likely thing to enhance the welfare of our neighbors. Seek this one thing within yourselves, an increase of love, through eradicating all the mistakes, sins, and passions which hinder its manifestation, and you will further the well-being of the people in the most effective way. He's telling you to seek, not my Christian self, but your Christian self, the image of God, not in me, seek it in you. Not in the people you disagree with, seek it in you. He's telling you that these great plans mean nothing, but your life means everything. History is going to unfold now at a quicker pace. The world is seriously changing, and it could be violent. There could be violence before this old world passes away and gives way to a new world. But over time, what is going to change everything is the people you make yourself into and the choices those people make. You know, Stephen Zweig said this. He said, if morality gives man freedom, then the state confines him. If the state permits him freedom, morality attempts to enslave him. You have to choose. Everything you do is going to have a price. The choices made in the hearts of individuals will determine what the clowns in Davos and the clowns in DC and all the people with big plans do. Here's one final quote, the 4th quote from C.S. Lewis. When Jesus died in the wounded world, he died not for men, but for each man. If each man had been the only man made, he would have done no less. If you can understand that, you can put your anger away. If you can understand that it's not about the guy next to you, it's not about the people in Davos, it's not about the people in DC, it is about you. The choices made in the hearts of individuals will guide them to the choices that should be made, which will drag the leaders of the country to the world you want. The old world is not coming back. The new world won't be made in Davos or DC. It will be made in the hearts of women and in the hearts of men who love them. If you love that, and I know you did, like and subscribe to The Andrew Klavan Show wherever you get your podcasts.